Hello, you're watching the news from Kazakhstan. I'm Askar Sherlief, and these are the top stories. The prosecution at the Zhanaozen trial started questioning the defendants before finishing with testimonies of all victims and witnesses. One of the defendants revealed he contacted tuberculosis after being tortured during the pre-trial investigation. President Nazarbayev asked the authorities to stabilize the situation in BTA and alliance banks without involving foreign borrowing. Residents of Karaganda residential estate Besoba, where an apartment block collapsed recently, are threatening the authorities with blocking city streets after new cracks appeared on the rest of the buildings. On the 12th day of the Zhanaozen violence trial, Judge Aralbay Nagashibayev made an unexpected decision to start questioning case defendants, despite the fact numerous victims have yet to give their testimonies. Explaining their absence, the judge said some of them have left the city and others specified wrong addresses in their claims. The defendants were asked to testify before all complainants were questioned, not to mention the witnesses. No one was expecting such a turn of events during the trial. The defense initially tried to appeal against the judge's ruling as, in their opinion, it was a direct violation of the questioning procedural order, although the presiding judge Aralbay Nagashibayev was impeccable. Erlan Kaliyev, member of the International Zhanaozen 2011 committee who had been observing the proceedings in the press room, called the judge's decision illogical. When a criminal case is reviewed, the first one to be questioned is the complainant, then the witness, and only after that the floor is given to those on the dock. The lawyer says that this is the international law procedure adhered to in the entire world. It all seems disjointed, and I believe we're all seeing that the preliminary investigation was not performed duly. The fact that defendants are testifying even before witnesses were questioned is a clear violation. No one expected things to turn out this way. Bulat Abilov, who is present to observe the trial, says the legal conflict is fairly evident, and this gives reason to believe that legal proceedings are full of blatant violations. In his opinion, it appears that everything is orchestrated to fit within specific time frame in order to bring the main organizers and troublemakers to justice as quickly as possible. The investigative committee is doing this on purpose. They want the defendants to testify first and, based on that information, tailor their questions when questioning witnesses who will reply differently now. At the moment, the prosecution definitely wants to plead those people guilty and later track down all the orchestrators from Almaty or perhaps from abroad and determine all the participants. The unexpected judge's decision, coupled with the rejection petition of their attorneys who wanted a short break to meet clients before the questioning session, outraged the defendants. Our fate is being determined. That's why we request that all the facts of the case be taken into consideration. We have been waiting for 7 months and no one ever listened to us. We're begging you, don't torture us. Despite the defense protest, the judge gave the floor to one of the defendants, although Tanutar Kaliyev refused making a statement due to his poor health. The prosecutor explained that in case of defendant's refusal to testify, the previous evidence obtained during preliminary investigation will be taken into account. If he was to strongly refuse to testify, that would be a different story. Then the judge could allow the prosecution to include the testimony obtained during preliminary investigation. However, in our case, the defendant explained that the reasons he cannot testify are related to his health conditions on the day of the hearing. Thus, he can still satisfy later. Almost all defendants refused to testify, recalling once again that they were subjected to torture during preliminary investigation. Additional details about health conditions of some of the defendants in the Zhanaozen case were also revealed on Tuesday. After the judge rejected the attorney's petition to meet with their clients and move to testimonies, it appeared defendant Yesengildi Abdrakhmanov contracted tuberculosis during pre-trial investigation. The defendant told the court about his conditions and later explained what caused it. The shocking words of the young man were confirmed by his wife Dinara, who attends the hearings daily with a small baby in her arms. The day Abdrakhmanov was detained for alleged participation in the riots, the investigators tortured him for a confession. The defendant says the detainees were held in a garage semi-naked, sprayed with cold water and then forced to lay face down in the wet ground while officers legally jumped on top of them. Mukhtar Alibeyev, Abdrakhmanov's attorney, requested the court to change the restrictive measure against his client, taking his health condition into consideration. Even though the doctor diagnosed the TB as non-contagious first grade, Abdrakhmanov will undergo additional examination. Having studied the medical record of the patient, the doctor said that to determine the level of threat to his cellmates and to those who are in the same courtroom, additional testing is required. Only through medical examination will tell how dangerous this is. This is why the issue of allowing him to be under house arrest still remains open. On Tuesday, members of the International Committee Zhenozhen 2011 spoke about violations they have noted during the 9 days of hearings they attended in Aktau. About 20 independent observers are currently monitoring the trial. More than 100 complainants have already testified in court in Zhenozhen case. Some of them have waived their civil claims. Others say they were tortured during the investigation process. Social activists came up with a few examples at yesterday's press conference in Almaty. According to the oiler Abdrakhmanov, he was kept in a garage and swilled with cold water, which resulted in an active form of tuberculosis, while defendant Kaliyev, whose evidence serves as the basis for indictment, claims having testified under torture. From the very start of the trial, foreign observers noted multiple violations committed both at the stage of investigation and during the court session. Here's what I think. If you take a look at the case materials, you'll see that identity of around 12 witnesses is kept confidential, which means their testimony serve as the ground for indictment. However, they can't attend the trial. In other words, what they reveal during the pre-trial investigation will be read out to form the indictment. But that violates the criminal procedure code. They must testify in court, let it be a separate room or premise. Representatives of the International Committee Zhenozhen 2011 believe the court is stepping up the pressure against the defendants, allowing the prosecution to yell and use sudden attack tactics during hearings. The prosecutors call for going outside and have it out man-on-man with the defendant, who said he was tortured during the investigation by one of the prosecuting attorneys, clearly shows procedural violations during the investigation. The army of independent observers is lacking a key representative from the Commission on Human Rights under the President of Kazakhstan. It is this commission that reports about the current situation in the country at international conferences. On Monday, one of its members, Vitaly Voronov, proposed the commission chairman to involve the organization in resolving acute conflicts such as one in Zhenozhen. The chairman, however, has yet to come up with a final decision. At the moment, the Commission mainly operates through meetings, of which there were none in December and January, as according to the Charter, it gathers at least once per quarter. Almost a third of the annual report on human rights, which is presented to the head of state and then published after his approval, is devoted to human rights for fair trial. This part of the Commission's report is very critical, as there are quite a lot of problems in this area indeed. The assertion that everyone in our country is provided with unimpeded access to justice is far from reality. The International Committee representatives insist that the court must establish whether opening fire was done in accordance with the law. They believe the police response was disappropriate to the actions of oilers. There was no immediate danger to lives of the law enforcement officers who, however, took many lives in return. President Nazarbayev has signed a decree on the unscheduled attestation of law enforcement agents. The document appeared in the press on Tuesday. According to the decree, employees of the President's administration, General Prosecution Office, Financial Police, Ministry of Internal Affairs, Ministry of Finance and law enforcement agencies will have to undergo unscheduled certification. Experts assume that Zhenozhen events have triggered the need for the staff revision. They will use this certification to get rid of politically unreliable MIA members who failed to show loyalty in Zhenozhen. It seems that they are of some danger to our leadership. MIA officers also failed to show loyalty during the trial over Zhenozhen, so they will get rid of all of them. A new national committee, Zhaltoksan 86th Ult-Kargany, was recently set up in Kazakhstan. The organization will unite activists of 5 different public organizations with the goal of protecting the rights of people who took part in Zhaltoksan events of 1986. The recently appointed committee chairman noted that a round table with involvement of the leaders of political organizations as well as state officials is being prepared at the moment. The round table participants will be presented with the program of the new association. It is noteworthy that Gulbahram Junis was seen among the organizers. She is known for participating in a brawl at the press conference of the Narodovlastие Democracy bloc when the leader of Alga Vladimir Kozlov was egged after announcing his presidency ambitions. Meanwhile, the participants of the new association assured that they are not planning any questionable actions in the nearest future. Instead, they will focus on legal issues and national ideology. National ideology is our priority, protection of our interests, the rights of the citizens and the country as a whole. It is not a secret that we believe the interests of the indigenous people are violated. We have to admit it and talk about it openly, so the national interests go first. Almaty real estate investors expressed their intention to take part in the upcoming oppositional rallies. Activists believe this is the only way to attract the attention of the authorities to their problems. Country's scientists are also ready to join the protests, dissatisfied with salary areas. Everyone spoke out during the press conference. According to Shymkent resident Kazdagaya Mankulova, people like her are having difficulty paying off the credit and are being threatened by the president's letter, where he ostensibly instructed to crack down on those with outstanding credits to make sure they've eventually paid them off. Local residents doubt the authenticity of the document. The woman says that around 1,000 people will support the upcoming rally. They are also planning to come to Almaty on April 28th. The investigator of the still unfinished estates, Champs-Élysées and LMI, also reminded about their problems. They have a bone to pick up on the finance minister, who is, in their opinion, is failing to fulfill the president's decree relating to the resolution of their issue. This is to inform you in advance. On March 27th, mass media was present at interest holders meeting with representatives of the organizations Zhetusuja na Kurulis under the Almaty city administration. You were there as well, and following further event coverage on TV and newspapers, interest holders of our housing association say that they have continuously appealed to executive bodies requesting a constructive dialogue, all to avail. The interest holders have been trying to get the executive bodies as well as the government's attention since 2007. With this in mind, and we're going to organize protest actions and join the city rallies. During the meeting with economic senior officials and National Bank Chair, President Nazarbayev said local banks must be shielded from foreign borrowings. The head of state recalled that the bank's external funding led to the 2007 financial crisis and said the threat of the new financial collapse is still strong. Due to this, the leader of the nation also asked to improve the stabilizing measures of two major banks of the country, BTA and Alliance. Thus, he confirmed that these financial institutions, despite huge cash infusions from the state budget, are still in need of aid. Nazarbayev directly pointed out the poor quality of the loan portfolio and extremely low credit activity in these banks. The president added that stimulation of national financial institutions must be carried out solely by internal means. The primary consequence for the narrowing of the external credit markets was the reduction of the dependency of our banks on external funding. It is good on the one hand because this was the reason why we suffered during the recent crisis. Being aware of the hard situation in a number of European banks who survive on the support of their central banks, we should not expect the increase of external financing sources of our banking system. We must find domestic reserves. Senator Oralbay Abdukarimov said on Tuesday that state will step up anti-corruption efforts within the Land Management Agency. A soon-to-be-created special commission will review all cases of reported violations. Abdukarimov heads the ruling party's anti-corruption council for already 4 years. The department employees seem to be quite strongly affected by Senator's mood. First, Kadirkhan Atarov, the department head, admitted that there is no smoke without the fire and that bribery is thriving in his organization. Then, Gulzhahan Bimendina, the secretary in charge, revealed that to decrease corruption, the agency is introducing an electronic format for providing services to the population. This way, to avoid bribery, 4 types of services will be provided remotely. Abdukarimov listened to all of the reports without commenting on them, but once he took the floor, he really got carried away. He gave about 10 examples relating to illegal sales of land in the region and reprimanded those in charge of the land for turning a blind eye when the city administration was allowing this. He also named the agency the most corrupted system of the government procurement. At the end, he even brought up the ex-head of the department, Umirzak Uzbekov, who was arrested by financial police on charges of embezzling more than $7 million last October.
Мне как-то выступая, давая интервью, сказал, что председатель агентства Узбеков должен подать в отставку.
I once said during an interview that Uzbekov, the chairman of the agency, had to resign. If at that time they had listened to us, they wouldn't have been charged now. Although what happened, happened. And this is, of course, a big shame for the entire civil administration and its employees. The staff of the customs station Khorgos is looking into the April 6 conflict at the facility. Back then, businessmen refused to pay the recently introduced additional fee of €4 per extra kilo of weight. Witnesses reported that entrepreneurs were locked down inside the customs holding areas and later resorted to breaking doors and windows to get out. I talked to one of the representatives. He explained that the locals from Jarkent pass through the customs several times a day to buy goods, but they are unwilling to pay the government the fee of €4. However, nobody told us the word about the fee. People just got outraged and started breaking doors and windows while screaming and shouting. We were scared to sit there and watch all that develop right in front of us. We had to stay there till 9 p.m. The customs officers chose not to involve the colleagues from the police in the investigation. In yesterday's interview, they claimed that the incident was staged by a group of businessmen who crossed the border with forged documents several times in order to avoid paying the overweight fee of €4 per kilogram. The video record of the events was not provided to journalists due to operative considerations. There is no investigation on the case. We're analyzing the situation to identify the instigators by ourselves. We have a list of suspects provided by the border service. On Tuesday, Yerlan Nasanbayev, the chairman of Forestry and Hunting Agency, was forced to explain his appearance in the infamous YouTube video uploaded by the Pavlodar businessman Mikhail Barsukovsky as part of his crusade against the local administrator Sapargalis Magulov. Among other photos, there is one with the chief forester depicted together with the infamous rural administration head accused of Barsukovsky of organizing a criminal group. At yesterday's press conference in Almaty, Yerlan Nasanbayev said that since his appointment, he has significantly improved the situation with forest fires and illegal lodging in the unique ribbon pine forest of Sherbatka region, administered by Smagulov. Apparently, all of their meetings were nothing but business. The photo in question was allegedly taken when he was during a business trip to the region, pressing for the installation of sawmills used by the locals to allegedly harvest and process wood from the natural resort. I'm not a friend of his. I do admit that we know each other. The photo was taken when I was on a business trip for a meeting. Of course, we have met, but you can see that my clothes are very formal. I was wearing a shirt and a tie, which proves it was an official meeting. A few days ago, Students' Trade Union of Kazakhstan named 3 most corrupted universities in Almaty. The list included both Turan and Medical Academy. According to the rector of the Medical University, Ayhan Akanov, the information presented by the Channel 31st is nothing but defamation. The Students' Trade Union leader, Rinat Kabraev, reported to the media about corruption in the university without backing his statements up with any evidence. Rinat wasn't completely honest, and it is not the right thing to do. It is also not good for a TV station to air such unverified information. I believe we still live in a rather democratic society, and before publicizing such statements, I think it was necessary to conduct independent audit and only after revealing facts claim that the university is corrupted. I assure you this is not true. The Students' Trade Union leader Kabraev was rather satisfied with the outcome of the meeting. Parties agreed upon conducting independent inspections and polling students to identify the corruption facts. I am fully satisfied with today's meeting outcome. For the first time, students were mobilized in expressing their views on current issues. I think it was a very constructive dialogue, which we definitely going to maintain in the future. We must finally set up an independent group to conduct transparent polling of students in all universities. We'll visit them in groups of 5 to 10 people to do so and then calculate the results. Only after that we may see an objective picture. Reporters of the state-owned news agency Kazinform complained to the Culture and Information Minister Darkhan Manbay that they have not been paid for already 2 months. The appeal itself was posted on the official's blog. In an informal chat with our colleagues, it was revealed that the minister had already responded to the situation. He promised that the payment will be resumed shortly, though didn't indicate when exactly it will happen. In the meantime, the Kazinform news agency employees say the salary delays are related to the re-registration of the Information and Archives Committee. The money is expected to arrive to the bank account of the organization as soon as the procedures will be completed. In any case, both the complaining reporters and the media management are reluctant to comment the situation, which is not new for the agency. Last year, some employees even protested for a week and all salary areas were then completely covered. Ice drifting in a rise of water level is reported on the Ural River. The emergency department of West Kazakhstan region says the situation so far is under control, although several villages still ended up cut off due to the flooding of state highways. 207 rescuers are involved in eliminating the flood consequences. So far, Zelenovsk district is not under flood threat. A team of blasters is on duty in Kastalovsk district and the dewatering there is underway. Blasting works are also conducted in the regional center to avoid jams. On April 8, MES specialists conducted an inspection flight over the near-border territory of the Saratov region of Russia and the upper reaches of the Big Uzen River. The snow cover in the area has thawed and specialists have already calculated the scope of accumulation and water discharge from the water reservoirs at Big Uzen River. According to MES, the discharge of water on the territory of the West Kazakhstan region will not create the threat of floods for the settlements of Kastalovsk and Zhangal districts. Residents of the Besoba estate, where one apartment block has collapsed last week, organized a spontaneous meeting with the view to get official answers to their numerous questions. In case the authorities will ignore the issue, they threaten to block city streets. They should report to us and tell us whether or not we should move out or not. What should we do? How should we live further? Residents of the Besoba apartment block 5 are now in panic. The basement is flooded and the walls are covered with cracks. In the meantime, no companies agreed to insure the flats. Now people are forced to enter the streets with questions which seemingly no one rushes to answer. Local residents even considered blocking the city roads to attract the attention of the authorities, however decided against it when the deputy head of the city administration and Kazmir Reconstruction and Development Institute representatives showed up at the scene. We're doing a geodetic measurements on the 5th building as well. It has no problem as of now, so there is no threat of a collapse yet, don't worry. During the inspection of food in the Olympus restaurant, health authorities found a number of dangerous causative microorganisms. On April 4, 36 people were hospitalized from the restaurant with food poisoning, including 12 children and 2 hockey team lineups from Ust-Kamenogorsk and Astana. Astana's chief sanitary doctor Sarkhat Bisenova said the sports facility director was fined around $325. The prosecution requested information about involved businessmen to instigate a criminal case due to the mass poisoning. Documents to suspend the operation of the restaurant were submitted to the court as well. The chief sanitary doctor said that the investigation had established the spoiled food was purchased in the local market. However, the epidemiological authorities are not rushing to introduce a quarantine, although they couldn't say whether the poisoned meat may end up on the plates of other residents of the city. The investigation established that the business owner purchases food at the local market. Accordingly, we took all wholesale warehouses under control. We're dealing with USA-produced chicken legs, but who exactly imports them is impossible to identify, since during the inspection of the restaurant Olympus, there were found no certifying documents. Pavlodar police is looking for the authors of the YouTube video that shows a group of young people changing street signs. While the order has been restored already, the authorities say there is no guarantee the hooligans will not strike again. The YouTube video in question shows several people replacing street signs and then explaining why they felt the urge to give Kazakh names to Slavic-named streets. We are Kazakhs and we decided to live up to our culture, so it would be right to rename streets. This way, several apartment blocks in Pavlodar changed their addresses overnight. 46 Kutuzov Street became 19 Mashkhur-Jusuf, while 10 Korolenko Street was replaced with 32 Bukhar-Zhirao. It is interesting that the young people did not spare even Kamzin Street, named so far a Kazakh hero of the Soviet Union, Kanash Kamzin. City administration is outraged about this glaring act of hooliganism. Officials are wondering why would anyone appreciate an initiative like this. No one holds anything against such great people as Abay, Bukhar-Zhirao or Mashkhur-Jusuf, but renaming of streets should be based on the legislation for administrative and territorial units. Officials went to the police after learning about the video's existence. Now Pavlodar law enforcement are studying the footage. A pre-investigation is initiated in respect to this video. Investigation officers are examining the footage and the procedural evaluation will be based on the results. While law enforcement officers are busy with the video, it is widely discussed on the web. Internet users already call young people's action a provocation. An anti-extremism roundtable took place in Astana on Tuesday. Youth groups said extremist ideas can be only countered through tolerance and self-control. Extremism has many different names, said NGO representatives to the students. They brought up Hizbut Tahrir as an example, whose operations were extremely conspirative to the extent when even family members may never know if their close ones are engaged in the extremist organization activities. Representatives of some popular religious confessions were also amongst those trying to tell young people to be cautious about various suspicious religious sects. Viktor Dolzhenkov came to a sad conclusion that the society nowadays is not really healthy. The suicide rate is increasing among school and university students. This is quite serious, and this speaks of a society's unhealthiness. On the other hand, there are religious groups who call for taking arms and fighting for their beliefs. This actually distances people from their souls and often leads them to engage in politics and fight for the power. This is all we have time for now. Thank you for watching and goodbye.